Hello, this is Mr. Eason here with homework help for 7.8. In this section, the students were subtracting mixed numbers, but this time there is regrouping involved. So as you can see in the equation below, the first step would be to subtract the fractions, and you cannot do 1/6 minus 5/6 because you can't take 5 from 1. So we went over a couple of strategies to figure this out, and the first strategy would be to draw a visual model. It's not the most time efficient strategy, but it definitely still works. So I'm going to pause the video while I get a visual model up on the screen, and then we will go from there. Alright, so now I have a visual model on my screen of 4 holes and 1/6. You can see we got our 4 holes. Even though they are holes, I need to make sure I draw them in sixths because that is the denominator we're working in. And my 1/6 is down here. So the next step I would need to do is I would need to subtract my 2 and 5/6. So all I have to do in the visual model strategy is to scratch out or get rid of the 2 holes and the 5/6. So I'm going to grab a different color. I'm going to start crossing out 2 holes up here. And then when I cross out my 5/6, it's kind of important that I start crossing out the hole that is not fully shaded first. So 1/6, we've got 3/6, so that's 4/6, and 5/6. So that part is gone. So the last step I need to do is count up what I have left. I've got 1 hole here, so I'm going to write 1 hole. And then I have, in this picture, 2/6 shaded, so I would write 2/6. So the answer to 4 and 1/6 minus 2 and 5/6 is 1 and 2/6. So I'm going to show you a maybe more time-efficient strategy next. That's going to involve just some fraction regrouping. This is probably the way that, if you remember from school, you learned it. So I will erase my visual model and we will start again. Okay, so here we go with the standard algorithm, or the way that you probably learned it in school. I like to call those the old school methods. So once again, we still cannot do 1/6 minus 5/6, so we are going to make an exchange here. We are going to regroup from our 1's position. So I'm going to cross out my 4, and I'm going to make it a 3, which means I'm taking 1 hole away from that. And I'm going to add that 1 hole to my 1/6. So you have to ask yourself, how many sixths are in 1 hole? That'd be 6/6. So I'm going to put a plus 6/6 over here on the side. And so what I do now is I rewrite my equation, just for neatness sake, over on the side. So I am going to write my 3 holes. And then what I need to do is I need to add up my 1/6 plus 6/6, which should be 7/6. So I'm going to write that as 3 and 7/6. As you can see, 3 and 7/6 and 4 and 1/6 are equivalent, which is why I can do this. It's just like regrouping when you're subtracting whole numbers, except you're not always going to be adding 10 like you do with whole numbers. You're going to be adding the whole in whatever fractional pieces that you're working with. So then I just copy down my 2 and 5/6 from the other equation, and it allows me now to subtract the normal way since I've regrouped. So I'm going to do my fractions first. 7/6 minus 5/6, and that is 2/6. 3 minus 2 is 1 whole, and we may want to rewrite that as 1 whole and 1/3, but if they have it as 2/6 and they don't simplify that fraction, that is also fine. Really, here we're looking to see if we know how to regroup with fractions. So I'm going to show you a couple more examples on the next page with our work that we did in our workbook. And when I do that, I will be using the standard algorithm or the regrouping strategy. Alright, so this is the work that we've been working on in class. This is exactly from their workbook, so we've just been practicing using this skill. So I'm going to solve maybe a couple of these here, and then you guys should be good to work on your homework. Alright, so we'll start with number 2. It says 1 2/3 minus 2/3. Notice we cannot do 1/3 minus 2/3 because you can't take 2 from 1. So I'm going to regroup that into the fraction position. So I'm going to take my 1 hole away, which leaves me with 0 holes, and I'm going to add my 3/3 because 3/3 is 1 whole in fraction form. So I'm going to rewrite my new equation. I have 0 holes and 4/3 minus 2/3. Easy enough. I have 2/3 remaining. Okay, let me try number 4 next. So we have 3 and 5/12 minus 8/12. Once again, cannot do 5/12 minus 8/12, so I'm going to regroup. I'm going to take one of my wholes away, and I'm going to add it on in fraction form. So I'm going to add on 12/12 because 12/12 is that one whole. And I'm going to rewrite my equation as 2 and 5/12 plus 12/12 is 17/12 minus 8/12. And when I subtract that out, I have 17 minus 8, which is 9/12. And I have 2 wholes left, so 2 and 9/12. You might simplify that to 2 and 3/4, but it's not necessary for this work. And I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do number 6. And number 6 I'm doing because it looks a little bit different than the other ones, and I don't want anybody to get confused there. It says 2 wholes minus 1 and 1/4. Well, there isn't a fraction there, which really means you have 0/4. So I'm still going to regroup the same way. I'm going to take away one of my wholes, so it leaves me with 1 left. I'm going to add on 4/4. So I'm just going to rewrite it over here. We've got 1 and 4/4. You can really easily see how that is 2 wholes, so that's why this strategy works. Minus 1 and 1/4. When I subtract that out, I get 4/4 minus 1/4 is 3/4. 1 minus 1 is 0, so I have 3/4 as my answer. Alright, so that should be all you need to get going with this. If you need to go back in the video and rewatch a couple, that's fine. Just remember the strategy is you are regrouping, so you need to add the whole that you're taking out of the whole position in fraction form to the other fraction that you have, and then rewrite that equation to keep it nice and neat. This has been Mr. Eason with Homework Help. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow.